Good day, everyone. Distinguished panel members, respected professors, fellow researchers, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lorna Lansangan, a faculty member of Isabela State University and currently having or taking Doctor of Business Administration at Polytechnic University of the Philippines. The map displayed in this slide introduces where this research originates. The GPS coordinates indicate the geographical position of the country, providing international audiences with the spatial context of my institutional affiliation. Republic of the Philippines is located in Southeast Asia. As you can see, Polytechnic University of the Philippines is located at the central part of the country. Specifically, I am affiliated with Isabela State University, located in the province of Isabela in northern Luzon, Philippines. It has a total of 12 campuses. Isabela is widely recognized as one of the country's major agricultural provinces and plays an important role in rice, corn, livestock, and other agri-food production. Because agriculture remains a vital contributor to both rural livelihoods and national food security, the Philippines provide a highly relevant context for examining how corporate social responsibility and inclusive business models can improve the welfare of smallholder farmers. Although this study synthesizes international evidence, the Philippine setting provides an important lens for interpreting the findings and identifying future research priorities for developing economies. Allow me now to formally introduce the study. The research is entitled Corporate Social Responsibility in Agri-Food Value Chains, a scoping review of inclusive business models for smallholder farmers. This research is a global scoping review that systematically maps and synthesizes evidence from studies conducted across multiple regions in the world. The reviewed literature covers research undertaken in Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, Europe, and other developing regions, allowing the study to provide a comprehensive international perspective on CSR-driven inclusive business models. Despite the growing body of international literature, important evidence gaps remain, particularly in the Philippines and Southeast Asia, where relatively few studies have examined domestic staple food system and the long-term effectiveness of the CSR initiatives. As the author, my objective is not only to summarize existing knowledge, but also to identify critical research gaps, methodological limitations, and policy directions that can strengthen inclusive agricultural development. This study seeks to contribute to both scholarship and practice by providing evidence that supports more equitable, resilient, and sustainable agri-food value chains, where smallholder farmers become genuine partners in development rather than passive beneficiaries. Also, I would like to acknowledge that this study was conducted independently and received no specific financial support or external funding from any public, commercial, or non-profit organization. I sincerely thank the organizers and everyone present today for this opportunity to share the findings of this research. Among these 5 compelling reasons to conduct this study is the combination of fragmented evidence and persistent structure inequality. While CSR-driven inclusive business models have expanded globally, there is still no comprehensive synthesis that critically evaluates their effectiveness, their inclusivity, and implementation challenges, particularly in the Philippines and Southeast Asia context. The manuscript, therefore, fills an important knowledge gap by providing an evidence map that can inform future research, policy making, and corporate practice. Also, these objectives elevate the study from a descriptive literature review to a high impact evidence synthesis because they emphasize knowledge generation through systematic evidence mapping, critically evaluate effectiveness rather than simply describing existing studies, address structural and governance issues, making the study theoretically and practically significant, produce actionable implications for policymakers, agribusinesses, development organizations, and researchers, thereby enhancing the study's contribution to sustainable and inclusive agricultural development. This study is anchored on four complementary theoretical foundations. First is the Carroll's corporate social responsibility theory that explains corporations are responsible not only for economic performance but also for ethical, legal, and social obligations. Second, Porter and Crummer's creating shared value theory, which demonstrates how businesses can simultaneously generate competitive advantage and social value by investing in smallholder farmers. Third, Freeman's stakeholder theory emphasizes balancing interests of all stakeholders, particularly farmers who often occupy the weakest position in agricultural supply chains. Together, these theories explain how responsible corporate practices can foster more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food value chains while highlighting the governance and equity challenges identified in this scoping review. This study employed the scoping review designed following the Jonas-Briggs Institution methodology and the PRISMA CSR reporting guidelines. The population context framework has used to define the eligibility criteria, ensuring a systematic and transparent mapping of evidence related to CSR-driven inclusive business models, supporting smallholder farmers across developing regions. The literature search covered 6 major academic databases and selected institutional repositories. From 1,240 identified records, duplicate removals and multiple stage screening resulted in 84 eligible studies. Independent reviewers performed study selection using predefined eligibility criteria, while data were extracted using a standardized JBI template and synthesized narratively to identify pattern, outcomes, and research gaps. The key findings for the result reviews, there are 1,240 records that were initially identified. 84 studies met all inclusion criteria. Literature increased substantially after 2010, coinciding with the SDGs, and shared value movement. Studies were concentrated in Asia and Africa. Most research focused on export-oriented agricultural value chains. And that shows the robustness of the review, demonstrates systematic screening using PRISMA. To present the objectives of the study, number one, publication trends and geographic distribution shows that the Philippines contributed approximately 12% of empirical studies. Okay, the implication is that more Philippines research is still needed despite increasing interest. Number two, how CSR and inclusive business models are conceptualized. Smallholder farmers are now viewed as suppliers, business partners, and value chain participants instead of aid beneficiaries. Meaning, CSR has become a strategic business model rather than charitable giving. Number three, shows most common arrangement were contract farming and outgrower schemes dominated the literature, which companies increasingly integrated CSR directly into supply chain. Number four shows an easy visual on higher income, higher yields, better credit, and better market access. That implies inclusive business creates measurable economic benefits for smallholder farmers. Number five shows that CSR contributes to sustainability beyond income generation. Number six, objective is showing that warning icons around farmers, which means that benefits often fail to reach the poorest farmers. And seven, the research gaps, which implies that future studies should prioritize domestic food systems. Under the discussion, governments, agribusiness firms, and NGOs should design more inclusive and equitable partnership. Because inclusive agricultural development requires not only responsible corporations, but also equitable business systems that ensure no smallholder farmers is left behind. For the conclusion, inclusive business models create value only when economic efficiency is matched by social equity and institutional inclusiveness. This review demonstrates that CSR is no longer merely a philanthropic obligation, but has become an important strategic approach for integrating smallholder farmers into modern agri-food value chains. Across the reviewed literature, the evidence consistently shows improvements in income, productivity, market participation, and sustainability. However, these gains are not universal. Structural inequalities continue to prevent many of the poorest farmers from fully benefiting from these initiatives. Therefore, successful CSR programs should pursue not only profitability but also fairness, participation, and long-term institutional support. This is perhaps the most important message that the specific community should remember. This scoping review does not develop a completely new theory, which is consistent with the purpose of a scoping review. Instead, it advances the theoretical understanding of CSR by integrating evidence across multiple studies and proposing that what may be described as the inclusive value chain sustainability proposition. The evidence suggests that CSR initiatives become truly sustainable only when value creation is accompanied by equitable governance, meaningful participation, and fair sharing of opportunities and risks. This synthesis extends creating shared value theory by emphasizing the economic success alone. That economic success alone is insufficient unless accompanied by genuine inclusiveness. Future research should therefore move beyond measuring productivity alone and investigate how governance structures influence long-term sustainability and equitable development. Recommendations are for researchers conduct longitudinal and mixed method studies to determine the long-term economic, social, and environmental impact of CSR-driven inclusive business models. Develop and adopt standardized, multidimensional indicators of inclusivity to enable comparisons across countries, commodities, and value chains. Expand research beyond export commodities to include domestic staple food system, particularly in the Philippines and Southeast Asia for agri-business firms. Design CSR initiatives that promote equitable participations, ensuring that women, indigenous peoples, and resource-poor smallholder farmers are not excluded. Strengthen risk-sharing mechanism, transparent pricing, and farmer participation in decision-making to reduce power imbalances within value chains. 2, for policymakers, establish supportive policies and incentives that encourage inclusive public-private partnership, responsible corporate investment, and sustainable agricultural value chains. Improve rural infrastructure, financial services, extension support, and digital technologies to enhance smallholder farmers' competitiveness and resilience. And for development organizations, facilitate multiple stakeholders, collaborations among government, agribusiness, cooperatives, NGOs, and research institutions to scale inclusive business practices, promote capacity building programs that improve farmers' entrepreneurial, financial, and climate adaptation skills. The impact or outcomes of the study is summed up on the utilization of stakeholders, the stakeholder and utilization of the study. The government agencies use the findings to strengthen agricultural, rural development, and inclusive business policies and investment priorities. For agribusiness firms, design CSR strategies that improve farmer inclusion, equitable partnership, and sustainable supply chain management. For the farmer cooperatives, strengthen organizational capacity, negotiate fairer partnerships, and improve market participations. Develop organizations and NGOs. Develop evidence-based livelihood, capacity building, and climate resilience program for smallholder farmers. For the researchers and higher education institutions, identify research gaps, establish future research agendas, and develop standardized measures for inclusivities. For funding agency and development partners, prioritize investment in inclusive business initiatives with demonstrated economic, social, and environmental benefits. For the key impact statement of the study, this scoping review provide a comprehensive evidence base that can guide future policy formulations, responsible corporate practice, and research towards more equitable, resilient, and sustainable agri-food value chains for smallholder farmers. This study serves as an knowledge resource rather than an intervention that directly changes laws or policies. Its principal impact lies in providing a consolidated evidence base that policymakers, agribusiness firms, development organizations, and designed and researchers can use to improve the design of inclusive agricultural programs. The review also identifies the need of standardized frameworks to evaluate CSR-driven inclusive business models and highlights opportunities to strengthen collaborative governance across the agri-food value chain. Ultimately, the study supports evidence-informed decision-making that can contribute to more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agricultural development in the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and similar contexts. Distinguished panel members, respected professors, fellow researchers, ladies and gentlemen, this presentation is grounded on international recognized scholarly literature, including peer-reviewed journal articles, methodological guidelines, and publications from leading international organizations. Thank you very much.